So Michael Knowles, or as we call him, the Daily Wire third stringer, he gave a speech at CPAC, and he made a comment that blew up and went viral online because of what he says. You know, they would argue, oh, this is a mucked up scandal, this is a fake scandal. I don't know, man. At plain face value reading of this, it seems like it should be a scandal because what you're saying is kind of insane. So let's listen and then we'll break it down.
There can be no middle way in dealing with transgenderism. It is all or nothing. If transgenderism is true, if men really can become women, then it's true for everybody of all ages. If transgenderism is false, as it is, if men really can't become women, as they cannot, then it's false for everybody too. And if it's false, then we should not indulge it.
Stupid.
Especially since that indulgence
Look how stupid he
requires
looks.
taking away the rights and customs
The way he
of
moves
so
his
many
head.
people.
Yeah.
If it is false,
Yeah,
then
if
for
it
the
is
good of
false.
society, and especially for the good of the poor people
He
who
does
have
the
fallen
Trump
prey
thing.
to this confusion,
Good society.
transgenderism must be eradicated from public life
Transgenderism must
the
be
whole
eradicated.
preposterous ideology at every level.
Transgenderism must be eradicated
You know what
from
that
public
means?
life entirely. That is the direct quote.
He wants to
Now,
kill trans people.
After he said this, a bunch of articles
Literally.
had headlines that said things to the effect
Literally
of,
wants to kill trans people. Matt Walsh.
Michael Knowles wants to eradicate trans people. So Michael Knowles and his other little Daily Wire sycophants launched a PR campaign to say, this is libelous, this is smearing, we'll sue you, you better pull down these articles. And so then the headlines on the articles were changed to just like directly quote him, where they said he wants to eradicate transgenderism, as opposed to saying he wants to eradicate transgender people. He's trying to draw a distinction to make it sound like, hey man, I'm not going too far. I'm not sounding genocidal.
Yeah.
And so his distinction is, I'm not saying get rid of all trans people. I'm just saying get rid of the transgender ideology. But let me ask you this. If you're trying to get rid of the quote-unquote transgender ideology or transgenderism, then isn't it the logical extension of that you're eliminating trans people? Certainly not. Certainly from now on, right? Because you clearly want to ban the procedure, even for adults, from now on, right? See, it's almost like the argument he's making is like, no, I don't want to retroactively get rid of...
Imagine if you said, we need to eradicate Judaism. That's literally Nazi shit right there. Nazi shit right there. You can't say that. So just saying, oh, we want to eradicate transgenderism, that's Nazi shit. That's genocidal. You can't do that. I want to eradicate atheism. How do you get rid of... There's people that aren't going to like just change their mind. So how do you get rid of that? You either jail them, you kill, you Minecraft them. That's genocidal.
Of trans people. So if somebody's already trans, okay, I guess we can let you live. Wow, so kind. But from here forward, we need to get rid of transgenderism. Well, that's... Okay, Michael, I don't know how to say this to you while being kind. Both of those things are bad and wrong. Both of those things are wrong. And you could tell, look, he really is giving us insight into the far-right mind here. Because what he says at the beginning, like the confusion, is he just doesn't understand trans people. He just doesn't get it at all. So here, I'm going to play it again, and then I'll tell you why it's so telling.
There can be no middle way in dealing with transgenderism. It is all or nothing. If transgenderism is true, if men really can become women, then it's true for everybody of all ages. If transgenderism
really
is
can
false,
become women,
as it
yeah.
is, if men really can't become women, as they cannot, then it's false for everybody too.
See,
that makes no sense.
I mean, that's just flat out confusion. Like, right? He just doesn't if a man can become a woman or a woman can become a man, it's true for everybody. But like, the numbers show that trans people are a very tiny minority of the population. Now, when we let the boot off the neck a little bit, that number's going to go up a little bit, but it's going to be like, the gay issue where there was a time when the number showed, oh, there are very few gay people. Then the more we became accepting of it as a society, that number ticked up to a certain amount. But even with it ticking up, it's still a minority of the population, and it will remain a minority of the population. Same thing with trans people. It could be, 0.0001% of the population or whatever. Maybe when you let your boot off the neck, it shoots up to 1% or 2%, right? But, my point here is, no, being trans is true for some people. And it's clearly something that exists in the world.
You can French kiss the guy next to you.
Civilizations have
you can French kiss the guy next to you.
That's okay. You can do that.
It's effectively the idea that you're kind of born in the wrong body. You may be, your sex may be male, but you effectively have a female brain, and so you want to outwardly express how you feel inside, and vice versa. And it's there's nothing wrong with that. Who cares? I totally file that under the who cares category in the same way I look at gay people where it's hey, God bless, good for you. Who cares? Who cares? Who cares? But for them, it's they cling to this idea, like a baby clings to its blanket of these traditional gender roles, and there's the pure masculine and the pure feminine, and you fit in one box or the other. And if you don't, oh my God, that's evil and wrong and bad, and it's degeneracy. But Michael, here's what we need to understand. Nobody gives a fuck what you think.
Yeah,
nobody cares about
Fuck
you
off.
And your goofy uber traditional ideology.
Fuck off, you stupid ass religious weirdo.
Ideal past that never even existed in the first place. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. And the overwhelming majority of people either are or will eventually be totally comfortable with the idea of some percentage of the population being gay or trans.
Gay people,
you might
LGBTQ
cling to the opposite idea, the traditional gender roles, because of religion or because of culture and tradition or whatever. But ultimately, those ideas that's not gonna hold in the long run. It's just not, because this is not by any stretch of the imagination a convincing argument. And whether you said, let's eradicate trans people, or you're saying let's eradicate transgenderism, both of those comments are bad and wrong and kind of dumb. It's just like saying, not let's eradicate gay people, let's eradicate gay ideology. And it's what does that even mean? So what? Nobody's allowed to talk about attraction to the same sex anymore? Is that it? How dumb is that? How stupid is that? How useless is that? They have nothing but culture war 24/7. And by the way, their obsession with the culture war and the leaning into the culture war issues also serves as a trick to distract people from the reality that these people all support robber barons who are, stealing your money on a regular basis. Billionaires pay a lower effective tax rate than the working class does in this country. And they're on the side of the plutocrats. They're on the side of the billionaires. And so they want to distract from the fact that everybody's getting robbed. And they want to divide and conquer the working class along culture war issues. But look, again, this isn't going to work, man. Because I think that the default perspective for most Americans is just whatever, man, live and let live. If you're not bugging me, then I don't care. I don't care. And he is so far gone from that ideology. That ideology is nowhere in the room when he's around.
Yeah.
And so, again, the nitpicking over, I didn't say eradicate trans people. I'm not literally calling for a genocide. I'm just saying eradicate transgenderism or gender ideology. So from here on out, we can have no more trans people. Well, look, I hate to tell you, even if you were, in theory, to somehow make it, which you can't, that nobody ever talks about transgenderism ever again, ever, there's still going to be some people who can tell from a very young age, yeah, something's off. I'm, my sex is male, but I feel female. Or my sex is female, but I feel male.
Yeah.
That's always going to exist. Whatever you want to call it.
You can't just
you don't call it. That is clearly a thing.
You can't just tell somebody what they feel like. It's their body.
And you can either be normal and cool and great, do whatever you got to do to feel
better.
And
also, people are well, it's a fad. It's people just want to do it because it's popular nowadays or whatever. Is it popular nowadays? I feel like you'll get beat up if you are LGBT. You literally get beat up. You get stalked. You get fucking you'll probably try to get murdered by some crazy conservative weirdo whack job. You'll get shot up in a fucking drag show or a fucking club. That's popular? Oh, that's definitely popular. Yeah, it's definitely popular to become LGBT. Oh
Or
yeah,
you can
it's
be
so
a weird
popular.
fundamentalist freak who has a vicious and hateful ideology. But again, I want to make something clear here. They originally argued, him, Matt Walsh, Ben Shapiro, all these guys. No. We're just trying to protect the kids. We just don't want some 4-year-old being able to transition. And, normies look at that and they go, yeah, I get that. You should probably wait until you're a little older before you make that decision. I mean, you literally don't know anything about the world when you're that age. So I get it. That's perfectly fair. But then, slowly but surely, they let the mask slip more and more and more and more to the point where Matt Walsh said on Twitter he thinks a transition surgery should be banned even for adults. And Michael Knowles is saying transgenderism should be eradicated. Well, there is no interpretation of what the direct quote he used, not the misinterpretation or interpretation of he wants to eradicate trans people. Even the direct quote you use, eradicate transgenderism, there's no reasonable interpretation of that. There is no world in which that makes sense. There's no world in which that's correct. That's just you flexing your authoritarian impulse. And by the way, still at this very late date, final point, they still don't accept the basic explanation of what's going on here. Namely, that yes, your biological sex is totally unchangeable. Your sex is one thing, your gender is another. So biological sex is exactly that. It's biological. So if you're born male, you're male. If you're born female, you're female.
And
right?
some people are intersex.
That's the hard and fast, hardwired type stuff. Of course, everybody agrees to that.
And then the doctor used to decide
gender is different.
whether to go with a girl or with a guy. Make your thing a
cultural.
girl thing or a guy thing.
Gender is the social construct.
Or the parents can
sex
decide.
Is not, but gender is the
usually
social
that
construct.
fucks the kid up when they grow up. Because that might not be the right thing.
And the idea around gender is, we have all these arbitrary guidelines and rules. Hey, pink's the girl color, blue's the boy color. High heels are feminine, flat shoes are masculine. And by the way, those are two perfect examples of how made up it all is. Because back in the day, high heels used to be viewed as masculine. Why? It was Ottoman soldiers had to wear high heels to ride their horses, and so it was viewed as very masculine.
Yep.
Well, that flipped at some point. Pink used to be the boy color, and blue used to be the girl color, and that at some point that flipped. So gender is totally cultural. It's just a totally arbitrary framework. And so somebody can be born biologically male but want to embrace the female gender. Trans person, right? And there's something about that appears to be pretty hardwired. So I don't know. The fact that they struggle with this so much is weird to me. Like, why do you struggle with this so much? It clearly exists, right? So,
yeah.
Anyway, there you have it.
Well, thank you, Kyle. That was Kyle from Secular Talk. Becoming like a fucking monopoly. Like, there's monopolies everywhere, and then they start bribing politicians, and it becomes legal to just like give money and shit, and like corrupt people and lobbying, and once it gets to that point, no, like you gotta heavily regulate capitalism, or it will destroy itself. It's a self-destroying system, like most systems are.